Hey, what's up? My name is Beau. Everybody calls me Beau the Mechanic. And today we're going to be welding some cast iron. Let's take a look at what I got. This is a $4 vise that I got from the scrapyard. I liked it. I don't know. I have this weird thing where I find shit that's fucked up and I just want to fix it. And I love vices. I got plenty of them. There's one right there. There's one right there. There's one right there. There's other ones over there. I don't think you can ever have enough vices. I don't think you can ever have enough. You use them all the time. I use them constantly. I'm always hammering on them, smashing shit, having to hold some weird thing. And the reason that I like this vise specifically, in a way, the reason I paid $5 for it or $4 and whatever cents for scrap metal, is because it swivels. This isn't like a good Wilton or anything like that, but it's just some knockoff. It looks like a knockoff shitty Chinese cast iron vise. But what makes it so cool is it's a 5-inch throat, which is, vices are usually, almost always, I've never seen them not, but they're always labeled by the thickness of the throat here. So 5-inch, which is what this is, or it'd be 4-inch or 3-inch or 6-inch, etc. But what makes this one really cool is that it swivels. Like you guys can see that it swivels like this, and then in addition, it swivels like this, okay? So you can imagine if this thing was welded on there, you could swivel this in a bunch of different directions, okay? Look at this one right here. This is a Wilton, but it's one of the cheap Wiltons you can get from Northern Tool. And I think that was like 200 bucks. And you can see that it's substantially less girth to it, you know? Let me slide this thing over here. Look at the difference in the two. So that's like a $200 Wilton that I bought forever ago. This is a shitty Chinese one, you know, but you know, it has to do with what you like. So I really like these that swivel, as you can see. This Wilton is awesome, it swivels. The only problems that I have with this Wilton from Northern Tool is that even when it doesn't swivel that easily from side to side. See, even when it's free, it's got locks that kind of catch it, so you can't really swivel it 360 like this one. That's problematic for me. Here's a different kind of vise over here. This is a really old, probably from the 30s, 1920s, 30s. And this is a 4-inch throat. It's got 4 inches right here. But as you can see, it just goes in and out. It doesn't have that ability to pivot and rotate, so it makes it a little less useful for me. Anyway, so what do we got going on, right? So I bought this thing for $4, whatever. Obviously it's broken. It's really fucked up and it's made out of cast iron. So how in the fuck are we gonna fix it? Cast iron proves lots of exciting problems. I got lots of welders, I got lots of welding experience, but cast iron is this weird thing. You don't ever know what you're getting into. It's like women, you know, you might find one and you might be like, oh, she's great. Turns out she's insane. Cast iron's the same way. Cast iron is this weird word and it just means like, it's got iron in it. What kind? I don't know. What percentage? I don't know. It's just like whatever they chucked in this cauldron when they were, you know, the foundry when they were making it. They just dumped a bunch of shit in there and it could have whatever percentage of carbon. It could have 6%, 5%, you know, whatever, 3%, I think. It could be anywhere around. That's how you can get a cast iron skillet. You can get a fucking cast iron vise. You can get a cast iron, you know, water radiator, etc. You just don't know what it is. So it's really like real problematic when you start to try and weld it because you don't know what the hell it is. Usually, you know, back in the old days, stuff made in America, you could kind of depend on it to be a specific quality of cast iron, so it's got a little bit less carbon in it, you know, more towards the steel side, which is 0.02, I believe. But anyway, so cast iron's a little sketchy, so let's take a look at it. Back to cast iron welding 101. So we're talking about this vise. This is what we got to weld back. As you can see in the past, somebody had tried to weld it, and when you try and weld it with a welding rod, like looks like they use like a 7018 or something, it becomes really hard. The carbon inside the steel, it like, you get a ton of shrinkage is what you end up with. So like the hot steel from the 7018 rod, the 6010, 6011, whatever you're using, it actually shrinks the cast iron and you'll get cracks, and that's what it looks like happening on this thing, okay? So how am I gonna fix it? Well, I'm gonna try brazing it, okay? These are some cheap brazing rods you can get from Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever, Menards, Lincoln Electric brand, and it says right on it, somewhere right here, it says that it's for cast iron, nickel alloys, and stainless steel. No additional flux is required. Preheating is required. So that's what we're gonna do with this. I'm gonna use these brazing rods. We're gonna bust out oxyacetylene. We're gonna go 1920s on this shit. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna grind it up the best I can and get rid of these shitty welds that whoever put on here. I'm gonna try and get it lined up the way it's supposed to go, which is somewhere like this, and then kind of just tack it with a piece of metal to hold it. And then what we're gonna do is preheating. Preheating is really, really important. Really important with cast iron. I don't know why, it just does. It's like helps the molecules open up. It like helps the steel keep it from shrinking as fast when you weld it. So brazing is kind of like hot glue gun. It's this weird, it doesn't actually weld the base metal, it just kind of fuses it all together. It's kind of like a glue. It's almost like soldering. You know, brazing and soldering are similar than welding. But I let somebody else can explain you the differences chemically. But, so, anyway, we're going 1920s. We're going to braze. So, I'm going to use a brazing torch. But first, like I said, I'm going to clean this up, grind it up. I'll show you guys in a second once it's ground clean. It's got to be really fucking clean. Welding is always about cleanliness, just like being godly. Godliness and cleanliness go together, and welding and cleanliness go together, whatever. So, I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to tack it up so it doesn't like distort and like, so we can keep it square for this vise that's going to go back into. And then we're going to bust out the preheater, and we're going to preheat the fuck out of it. And then we're going to just start laying braze down. And then we'll do a post cool where we let it cool down slowly with a torch. Let's see what happens. Yo, back again. Hey, I couldn't film while I was welding. It turns out it got all crazy. I was really worried. Backtrack a little bit. So cast iron, I told you, is a little bit sketchy. Once you preheat it, it's kind of like a time bomb. You don't know what's going to happen. You only have so much time. Once you start heating it up, and if you let it cool down really fast, it can crack. This vise I got, you know, for $4 I want to keep, so I was kind of stressed, and I didn't think I'd have time to film, weld, preheat, post-heat, etc., and catch it all on camera and not fuck it up. So, let me show you what I did though. This is the vise. It's already fixed. It's like magic. There's my old vise. I moved it over there. This is the new, bigger vise, and you can see this crazy looking gold ring around it. And that's the bronze. That's the brass bronze filler. You can see where this part was broken off from this part. And so what I did was I went inside here, I beveled it, which is to put like a, kind of cut a little notch in it, a V notch, because it's pretty thick as you guys saw in the very beginning. So I notched it. I came over here once it was clean, and I got this little jig I use a lot. So I put it inside this jig and smushed it down so it couldn't move, and then I just started preheating it, okay? Which is where you use this torch head with some oxyacetylene that's over there in those tanks, and you basically just sit here and you preheat, and you preheat, and you preheat. And I have one of these special little pencils, and you mark it, and this tells you when it hits about 350. I think this is what this one is. 350 degrees Fahrenheit. The whole piece is now at 350 like an oven. So that took like 5, maybe 10 minutes. 10 minutes of preheating, okay? And now you're ready. Like you're ready to start welding, okay? So I bust out my bronze filler rods, dipped in flux already, which was these bad boys that you can get from Home Depot. Just a coated bronze rod. And you switch. You can't use this anymore because this is a preheating thing. So then you switch to a brazing tip, okay, which is this little bad boy. So I put this on my little torch, and then you just sit there and you smelt it all in. It's kind of like soldering. You solder all this great stuff in. Well, anyway, like I said, I got stressed out. I didn't want to mess this up because I'm trying to keep this vise for myself, and so I just went and did it without you guys seeing it. But lucky for you guys, I got even more cast iron to fix, because not only do I have one vise, I have 2 vices, dose vices. Now this one, like I said, is a cheapie. It's probably from China sometime back forever ago in like the early 90s. This one is different. Check this thing out. I found this one at the dump too. This is a Prince vise from New York, Bulldog number 52. I don't know how old it is, but I'm guessing it's probably from the 30s, maybe older. As you can see, it's broken off here, the whole bottom of it. It's been welded before, actually. Look at that. Somebody's put, who the hell knows, a piece of steel to try and strengthen it up. But it's definitely had better days. If you look here, somebody's broken this piece off, hammering on it. This is not made to be hammered on. Unlike this one, it's got a little flat spot. But anyway, so now what we're gonna do is a whole lot more cast iron welding in this area.